We are here. Becca's bookoplathon has started. Started an hour and a half ago, but I didn't feel like vlogging because I was just that into my book. So I'm here with a toothache, a really bad one. It's gonna last me until I can actually get it looked at, and I am thriving. It is a warm day. Quickly, I'll tell you what I'm reading right now, because I'm not gonna really decide what I read until I get to it. Obviously, I have one more prompt to choose for at the moment, but I'll think about it later. I'm currently reading, give me a second, Down Comes the Night by Allison Soft, which is her debut, I think, for this year, and I'm on chapter 31 out of 40, so I'm almost done with it. And at the beginning of the readathon, I was like on chapter 24, so I'm making progress. I'm loving it. Let me tell you about this book. We follow Ren, who makes a really bad mistake on one of her missions, and the queen ends up punishing her for it by suspending her. She's a soldier, and she gets sent back to her abbey. There's a huge like religion thing in this world in terms of goddesses, which is why an abbey exists in the first place. And she ends up getting a letter from a man, Lowry, very peculiar man, let me tell you that. He is from Sernos, I believe is the name of the place, and Sernos has no religious affiliation. They don't have any political standing in the war. They pretty much avoid all of it, and so it's very rare for them to come in contact with the two places that are constantly battling in war and such. But so this letter in itself is peculiar, but he's like, hey girl, I heard you got suspended, and I actually have a job for you. One of my servants is dying, and I'd love for you to come and heal him. She's a healer, I probably should have mentioned that. And she accepts as a way to prove herself, and that's one of the biggest things about this book, is she always does stuff in mind to like prove herself to the queen and to Una, who is her supervisor and romantic interest for some time. It gives time for all of these new elements that we get introduced to throughout the story to be fleshed out perfectly. And then we also get to spend more time with the characters, which I love very much. So I'm gonna read. And this is for the fantasy prompts. Well, that's pretty good too. Let's talk about this book. I do want to give reviews on all the books I read in this video, just because I always have like a sudden urge and need to talk about books as soon as I finish them. So the benefit of the vlog, I just finished Down Comes the Night. I finished it at like 8 o'clock maybe a little bit before, and I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars, and that was a very easy rating for me to determine. It is gothic literature, gothic fantasy if you will, and I never knew that this was a genre that I needed. I mean, obviously there exist gothic elements within fantasy worlds sometimes, but this is really specified to gothic fantasy as those two words combined, and therefore in that nature, the atmosphere, it's set during winter time for the most part, so it's snowing, there's like a storm for most of the book, and then on top of that, this world almost exists in a kind of Victorian London setting, but not London. I'm only using London as a reference because you know that energy that TV shows that are oftentimes set in Victorian London give off, and Gothic literature in itself often gives off being set in like the UK and Europe. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. It's that same exact energy that's exuded through the imagery and through the scenes and the descriptions. It's so cozy almost. That's exactly what it is. It's cozy. And it makes you feel like warm with the characters when they warm up, and trapped like the characters as well. I loved the characters. I thought they were fantastic. Most of them, or main cast of characters at least, were very complex, and that's something rare that I think you see. It's oftentimes one character, or most characters will like not be one note necessarily, but most of their motivations lie in convenience to the story, and so therefore their character kind of seems to flow with the story rather than grow on their own. But each of the characters in the book kind of take on their own story, as opposed to, like I said before, why does that look weird? What the heck? I think the most complex character in this book is Hal. He just develops so nicely, and it's so satisfying to see him at the beginning versus him at the end. And even our main character, Ren, she stays true to her nature, but she always has this internal battle of struggling with that nature that is a common theme in this book, which is how her emotions are her weakness. Now, this is a common thing that a lot of writers, I think, are using nowadays in female protagonists, where, specifically in fantasy series books, they'll make their complexity root from how they're an emotional person, empathetic, and they're often guided to do the right thing, and how everyone around them tells them that it's bad because they need to be ruthless rather than kind. And this is a battle that Ren faces, and it's kind of reaffirmed to her in the first 60 pages alone that she can't be this way, and it's what gets her in trouble. That's why she fails the mission, because she lets her emotions take over everything else. And it's beautiful, and I will never get tired of this protagonist. And most of all, I want to talk about the ending. Sometimes you just need a good, warm ending, and that is exactly what this book has. Is definitely something I needed after reading Ruin and Rising. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like the ending of that trilogy, but like, there's a certain emotion connected with it, and Down Comes the Night has that opposite emotion. I urge you to read it. I definitely 10 out of 10 recommend it. I know some people were talking about it, so if you haven't read it yet, then you definitely should. I'm not gonna review yet, sorry. I could probably like update you on my plans, so I'm going to like watch an episode of something, I don't know, I'm just gonna like chill out because I'm tired. My eyes were tired. I never wear my glasses when I read, even though I need to, in order to prevent this tiredness, because like now my eyes are like strained from reading. I need my glasses, but it's fine. To be fair though, I also have only gotten 8 hours of sleep in the last 48 hours. I think for the dark cover prompts, hold on. I have an audiobook out. Actually, both books I have out from the library are and can work for the dark cover prompt. So I'm going to listen to the guest list because it's a short audiobook. It's only 10 hours. Oh, and I say that because I listen to it on double speed. So.
The day before. Aoife, the wedding planner.
The winner crowned the UK's Drag Race Superstar will receive an all-expenses-paid trip to Hollywood to create their own digital series with the producers of RuPaul's Drag.
Writing in my audiobook 4 hours and 22 minutes. And I have 5 hours and 59 left, which is like 3-ish. Yeah, 3-ish hours left. I'm going to see what the next prompts are so I can pick a new book. Okay, POC rep, it's always a nice one. A contemporary. Okay. Let's go take let's go take a look at my bookshelf, yeah. So this is my entire TBR. And my literary fiction / contemporary section is over here. I do not feel like reading contemporary. Actually, I could read House on Mango Street. Okay, so maybe for contemporary I'll read this one. But for POC rep, I'm gonna read Black Sun. And I wanted to actually read this one for the readathon, so this is good. I finished the guest list. My Lucy Folly. Wow. I was just laying in my bed listening to the rest of the audiobook. I told you how much I had left. Yeah. The second half of the book definitely picks up, which is why it was easy for me to do that, because I was still a little bit groggy and tired. But I was just so invested in figuring out the dynamics between all of the characters. This wedding that's occurring on this island, and obviously there's the wedding party that arrives before everyone else, and it's about the series of events that ends up leading to a murder on the wedding night. Most of the book is concentrated in the days leading up to the wedding. It's not that many days, I think it's like a couple. Or the day before specifically. What? Oh my god. I was not expecting any of that. To be fair, I wasn't really putting on my investigative cap. I was just letting myself get really trapped in the story, and I still don't think I could have guessed any of that. One thing I could have guessed was, or one thing I did guess was like how evil this one person truly was, if there was substance to people's curiosities about them. I was right about that. But besides that, wow. All of the reveals were fantastic in my opinion. None of them were shocking, or not, I shouldn't say they were shocking, but none of them were unexpected. Because sometimes authors try to outwit their reader, and then it just ends up being like a terrible ending because none of it makes sense. But with the little pieces that we got from over these 10 hours, I should say, actually, it was just, it all made so much sense, and I feel like the reveals can seem a bit sudden. There's these 5 chapters where these characters who we've been getting perspectives from for the entire novel are kind of having this revelation, and those were my favorite 5 chapters because it was this sudden shock to all of them. The confrontation, I feel like, could have been a little bit more dramatic and confrontational, but besides that, I really loved it, and I really loved how over time we learned how connected all of these characters were and how they didn't even know how connected they all were in the end. And I really like how Lucy Foley decided to write a cast of unlikable characters. Oh my god, they're all so unbearable. The only ones that I really liked were either well, the female characters, they're either Hannah and Olivia. I felt for Olivia so hard, and Hannah as well. And then Ether, I don't know, I just really liked her energy. And in the words of this review, I think that's what I want to end you with. Now I'm going to read How Something Goes Straight. 3 o'clock right now, and I totally can get this done before the next roll drops. I'll catch you later. It's 12:30 in the morning, and I am going to go to bed. Maybe. Actually, I might read the first chapter of Black Sun. I'll talk about that in a second, but I finished this earlier. I actually read it very shortly after I talked to you. Nope, that's a lie, actually. I started this at 4 o'clock, and then I read it until maybe a little after 5. It was very quick. This book's only 110 pages. I originally read this for school. I originally gave it 3 stars, and I think now I'm gonna give it like a 3.75. So let's talk about it, even though I have nothing to say. I like how accessible the writing is, and reading it, you understand what she's trying to come across with in each of the vignettes. She uses both implicit and explicit writing when discussing her themes, or the themes that she wants to talk about, because this does have like a lot of dark subject matter, which I think is really cool, because then it really makes you think about the connections that she's making between what she writes in the literal form versus what she's talking about. Let me get Black Sun. Here we have The Magnificent Black Sun by Rebecca Roundhorse. It's a little strenuous to annotate sometimes, and I know it's meant not to be, and I don't think it really is. I just say that because sometimes annotating like multiple books at the same time can be a little complicated. But I'm ready to read this one, and I'm going to read it to finish 2 prompts. Even though that really doesn't matter to me at this point, I just really want to read 4 books, and I think I can finish this one before 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I bid you a good night. The readathon is over. It's 5:20 right now, which means it's been over for like 20 minutes. And okay, I got halfway through Black Sun, but I do plan on finishing this tonight. I'm actually gonna keep reading. I just stopped to film. I'd call that a win, because that means 4 books done this weekend. I guess that is that. I hope you had fun if you participated. I hope you enjoyed this vlog. And I will see you next time. Bye.